Welcome. So, fun fact, since my last video, I defended my thesis and passed with distinction, which apparently is really rare, and I graduated from grad school. So, I'm officially a Master's of the Arts, or at least a Master of History. This 2-year journey was a whirlwind of learning and adjusting and more learning and adjusting, but I have to say, I generally really enjoyed the experience. And for those of you who have never attended grad school or are looking to attend grad school, I hope this video is enlightening to you in some way. I sure wish I had some of the honesty I'm about to share with you before I started 2 years ago. So I'm going to split up this video into my expectations going into grad school and then the bittersweet aspects that I'm going to miss and not miss about grad school. All while I paint Lillis Hall, the business building, which I maybe only had 1 or 2 classes in, both of which had nothing to do with history. My building is a little more brutalist and doesn't have this big O on it, so So I specifically chose the University of Oregon because they offered me a full financial package and a stipend. And I knew that I needed to follow the money, especially when it was this generous for a master's degree. So going into this experience, I knew I'd have some money, but I will say the first term or two were still pretty tight financially. We did eventually get a raise via our union, and that helped a lot because at first I thought I was going to have to get an outside job alongside my grading and teaching position that was providing my stipend, and I was pretty anxious about that, especially because I thought I was going to be taking about 9 units max each term, and this was a very incorrect assumption on my part because I would be required to take 5 units of Russian language each term of my 2 years, and sometimes my history course load would be like 10 or 11 units, meaning I was taking like 16 units of my own classes along with the unacknowledged by the university 4 units for each class I graded and taught each term. And the reason this was such a big issue for me was because history grad classes are basically just reading entire books and reporting back to a 3-hour-long book club each week. So if I had 2 of those classes, that'd mean I was reading 2 books each week, on top of keeping up with my Russian homework, and the course materials for the class I'm grading for, which were almost always adjacent or completely different from my field of expertise. Not to mention, these 3-hour classes twice a week, and Russian class 1 hour each day, and office hours for 2 hours each week, and the class I graded for an hour on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, made this basically a full-time job and just what I had to be physically present for. And this doesn't even account for the hours I'd spend reading and dissecting the books, conducting my own research in the background, and taking the bus, which was about an hour-long journey each way. In my busiest of terms, Adam would go to sleep around 10, and I'd stay up for another 2 hours reading and taking notes because I wanted my research paper to be perfect, or because I wasn't able to participate enough with my dissected book notes and I had to read more closely. On this note, I must say Adam was an angel these entire 2 years. He was always respectful of my schedule, and he didn't complain when we'd spend beautiful weekends inside because I had to finish my work. And this is mostly just the first year recap so far. The second year, I really thought my course load was going to decrease, and once again, I was mistaken. This actually became a real issue the first term of my second year because I was taking 2 classes that should have been helping me get parts of my thesis done, but ended up wasting a lot of my time because it involved a ton of reading about American history. I was able to manipulate the assignments to my general benefit, but one professor told me that the chapter I was working on would be boring if I didn't write it in narrative style, and she was so freaking wrong. If you walk away with anything from this video, regardless of you wanting to go to grad school or not, know that just because someone seems smart doesn't mean they're right. The chapter I produced that term was awful, and I ended up having to rewrite it along with writing the introduction and first chapter all in winter term, so that I'd stay on schedule. Winter term did come with more time as I finally started enrolling in thesis credits, but I was still taking around 15 units, and regardless, this term and especially the following term were much more akin to what I expected when I set out for grad school. Another expectation I had was that I'd be making a bunch of lifelong friends with people who loved history as much as I do, and this was eventually the case with a couple people. But I have to say, grad school is a weird environment for making friends. you start out like sizing everyone up, and it takes about a half a year for everyone to chill out and stop one-upping each other in class. And for me, my busy schedule really affected the friend-making aspect too. I can get really focused, especially when you put a to-do list in front of me, so I tend to isolate myself until I get everything done. But the issue is, I only got everything done about a week ago when I turned in my thesis to the university. So I was mainly just held up in my office, only interacting with people as I passed by their office on the way to mine or in class. Thus, I have a few friends, a couple of whom I'd say are fairly close friends, but nothing like I expected going into this program. I will say that I was very grateful to have a shared office, and I wish I could just take everyone through the experience of seeing my office, because it's like a corner of a hallway, so it like turns a corner and it's someone else's office, but there's no wall in between our two offices, so people always came in and were like perplexed at its feat of engineering. But I loved it. I shared this office with another Soviet master student, Jake, and that is really where my expectations for friendship were met. We just talk about history, we talk in Russian, we talk about life and our projects and our advisor. It was a great space to just decompress from the stress of school, especially since Jake was taking just about the same course load as me most of the time. This leaves me with the bittersweet aspects of leaving grad school. I'll start with the bitter. I love research. Oh my god, I love it so much. And that's probably why my thesis came with such great results. And don't worry, I'm planning on my next video being all about my thesis research, so stay tuned for that. A little snippet though is I studied family separation and trauma with the Stalinist purges in the Gulag, and each chapter was split up into an aspect of the traditional family, like fathers and husbands, mothers and wives, and children. I am so proud of the research I produced, and I just want to keep researching more and more and more. I loved going to the library and picking up 10 books I ordered through the database. I loved being surrounded by stacks of memoirs and compiled letters. I loved having access to digitized archival material. I loved reading the archival material in the original Russian. I was able to do that. So in short, I loved the entire gist of the experience that came with grad school. And that goes for even this channel. I wouldn't have been able to make these videos if it wasn't for my free subscription to Adobe Cloud. I wouldn't have been able to make the zine video without my incredibly easy access to books and zines through the UO library and special collections. I love these things so much, and I am incredibly sad to see them go. Now I have to pay for them if I want to keep them? Like, just rub the salt in the wound, I guess. And that also goes for all the student discounts I got too. I am so frustrated now that I have to pay $10 more for my internet just because I'm not a student anymore. If the $25 were working for you before, what's the problem now? I digress. A final bitter that I'm dealing with right now is that I am unemployed in Trump's America, where everything I want to do is being defunded. Back in September, I started looking into working for nonprofits, and at this point, nobody is hiring unless I can guarantee results. And I would go back to grad school and get my PhD, but it is too risky with people losing funding and departments shrinking. And on this note, I will say that academics are their own worst enemy. They gatekeep like crazy, and they cry when nobody cares. And if I were a professor, I'd really care about my students, and my audience wouldn't be other academics. It'd always be the people who are directly affected by the research I'm conducting. But again, I digress. The fact of the matter is, I feel like I've been lied to. People say that if you have a master's degree, you'll get a job without any issues, but here I am, unemployed, and I even worked to make my resume and CV more impressive, but nobody wants me. I tried networking, and it was a bust. I really just don't know what to do, and it is extremely stressful. And please, don't comment that getting a master's in history does nothing, when really, unless your degree is in a STEM field, a lot of your job search is just feeling around for whatever is available. I will now end with a sweet. Now I have a ton of free time to make more history videos. I can go camping on a whim like I did just last week. I can play Animal Crossing and read fantasy novels. I can finally spend time with Adam. I've been running more and taking care of my physical health. I have a super cool research written and published for those with access to ProQuest, and a master's degree, proof of my hard work and dedication. And the option to go back to grad school is always open for me whenever I wish to take it, which I'm sure I will someday. I also think that I've grown a lot. Before this program, I was stuck in the Orange County bubble. But now I'm exploring the world and myself and learning a lot and growing a lot in return. While these past 2 years feel like a blur at times, or like a blip in time. I mean, I started when I was 23 and now I'm about to be 25. What the heck? I don't regret the choice I made. What can I say? I love school. Bye!
Can I look?
What was that?
Can I see what you have?
Yeah, I just got started.
Nice.
Thank you.
Oh, I like you got the right dimension.
Yeah. Hi. Thank
I
you.
like that.
Thank you very much.
All right. Are you a student here?
I just graduated.
Did you?
Mhm, yeah.
What are your plans?
Just try to find a job somewhere.
Locally?
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
I've been here all my life,
Really?
so I hope I see you around town.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, you too.